all-new Sony A74 for real estate videography. The question I searched high and low on the internet that no one seemed to answer: is this camera wide enough for real estate videos? We know it has that 4K 60 crop, so does it therefore make a great real estate video camera? Let's find out. What's the deal, everybody? Welcome back to the studio. Jeremy Deal here, and as I mentioned on the top, we are talking about the A74 when it comes to real estate videos and trying to determine if it's wide enough and if you should buy this thing. Now, I bought it, as I mentioned, to upgrade my real estate photos, but we are talking about video in particular because I may be replacing my GH5S with it. Now, the two rigs I'm shooting with, the Sony A74, I'll be shooting with the 12 to 24 millimeter f4 G lens. The Panasonic GH5S, I'll be shooting with the 7 to 14 2.8 f-stop Mzuikyo lens. You've seen me do past videos on this because I've been using this camera for a long time. So let's stack it up right now. Now, as you can see from looking at this footage right here, this is the cropped 4K 60 footage from the Sony A74. Now, for all of these tests, I actually put both of these cameras on my Edelkrone slider in the exact same place, exact same mounting spot, so you can really see the difference in these two setups and two lenses. Now, you just saw that 4K 60 stuff. Let's check out what the Panasonic looks like with its 4K 60, but keep in mind this is 8-bit. You can instantly tell it is way wider than the cropped in version of the Sony A74, which on first inspection makes you think maybe not. This could not work for me. Maybe I'm wrong here, but I don't think this is going to work for real estate video. But if you do notice, when you look at these two shots right next to each other, the dynamic range in the video from the A74 is far superior to that of the GH5S. Now, granted, there is a substantial price difference in between these two cameras and lens systems, so that will compensate a little bit for that when you're making this decision. But just looking at these two clips right next to each other, you can see that even though it is cropped in too tight, in my opinion, for real estate video, the dynamic range is something to look at. And then I thought back on a video I saw from Original Dobo. If you're watching this, you already know what I'm talking about because you put this thought in my mind. I record everything in 4K, but I export everything in 1080 because these agents don't really need anything more than that. I edit in a 1080 timeline and then I export it as so. I don't even export as 4K and no one's ever asked me for it. So if that's the case, why am I even shooting in 4K, right? And when I got on that train, I thought, let's compare the HD, the 1080 60 frames a second, 10-bit, and let's also just compare that to the GH5, which also has a 1080 10-bit 60 frames a second. So now these two truly are equal in their capacity according to the specs. So the first thing we're going to check out right here is going to be from the Panasonic GH5S. Now look at this shot, nice and wide, everything looks nice and crisp, but one thing I did notice other than the dynamic range is when you stack it up next to this shot of the Sony A74 on 1080 60 frames a second 10-bit, you can tell the distortion that the GH5S and the Mzuikyo lens gives to the room. With the Sony, you notice the room is much more compressed and the furniture looks more real to size and less stretched out. You can really notice this in particular on the bed and the stand-up dresser to the right-hand side of the room. These are the two areas that I can notice it the most. And still, once again, when you're comparing these two, you can see the dynamic range difference, especially in the window. You can see out of the window on the Sony and you cannot see out of the window on the GH5S. Now, I was going to go into a big deep dive over the A74 and the GH5S and compare a whole bunch of things about them, but I think this is really kind of taking the cake because ultimately you don't need to shoot real estate videos in 4K. Thanks again, Original Dobo. I'm going to start shooting in HD, and whenever I want a crop in shot, I'm just going to zoom in with my lens. That's what it's there for. So realistically speaking, I think the A74 may have just taken over my GH5S as my main real estate camera. Not only that, it's got a cool feature where it allows me to store all the video to one card and all the photos to another card, making the process of downloading and editing super easy at the end. It also minimizes the amount of gear I have to bring with me if I can do it all with the exact same camera and lens setup without having to switch everything around multiple times. So when it comes down to it, what do I think about the A7 IV? Is it wide enough? Yeah, it is, because you only need to shoot in HD. I mean, if you're really that worried about the 4K crop, you could go with something like the FX3 or the A7S III, but those are still going to be about $1,000 higher than the A7 IV when it comes down to the price point, and the photo quality won't be there. What I really love about this camera is the photo quality is incredible. The video quality is incredible. That being said, check out on my pages. You might be seeing that GH5 go up for sale fairly soon because this thing's a beast. I'm going to use it in the field a few more times, but I'll keep you updated. As always, keep rocking and rolling. Enjoy what you're doing. Make smart business decisions because buying this camera was one for me. And I'll catch you next time.
Welcome to the dark side of real estate, where we pay the agents and owners more, but the creators like photographers and videographers less. Join the dark side with me.